First of all, I'll tell you that a lot of things happened to my health. I mean, serving on a submarine, you didn't have any fresh air, you didn't have any sunlight, it was hard on your system. The worst thing that's happened to me is I developed PTSD.
The worst experience was when I had no experience yet, was leaving home. You know, as a youngster, leaving home is pretty rough. Not knowing what you're going to get into. And see, back in them days, usually you didn't have the opportunity to travel around an awful lot. You'd stay in your home village, town, whatever, all your life. And then to make a break, it's pretty hard. You realize I'm missing Mom's cooking and all that kind of stuff. There's times at sea that we had more or less sticky problems, you know, with casualties and stuff like that.
The worst experience was probably seeing all of the damage and harm that was done both to military personnel, civilians, and the countryside.
I think probably the worst experience I saw was I saw a fella, one of my mates accidentally shoot and kill one of the boys on the tank. It was the same occasion. We were getting back on the tanks and he had a semi-automatic carbine. He forgot to put his safety on. And he was getting on the tank and he put the gun up on the side of the tank to pull himself up. And he fired and there was 3 or 4 guys sitting up in front of the turret. And it took one of them in the back and killed him instantly.
What would you say your worst experience was?
Well, as you know, war is not a pleasant occupation. I lost 5 of my very good friends in one day when the Firefly ship, which is a flare ship, it lights up perimeters on fire bases, when the aircraft crashed and killed all 5 of those men. That was tough to see that.
My worst experience was each day thinking about home and wondering if I won't come back home.
The worst of experience occurs when you're in combat, and I spent 2 years in Vietnam.
Your thoughts of wondering whether you're going to get out of it or not, but you're in there to do your job and so help your buddies, and so that's what you did.
At age 19, I lost my entire squad in World War II in Albuslar, Germany, a little village just east of Munster, Germany. When we took a direct shell in our half-track from a German artillery piece.
Well, that was at Okinawa. We spent 67 days at Okinawa. And we seen quite a few kamikaze planes and ships that were hit by kamikaze planes, and it wasn't a pleasant sight.
Good times when we were able to get ashore. We had beer parties, which is a big thing. Rest camp after each war patrol, of which I completed 5. Rest camp was 2 to 3 weeks of relaxation, playing sports and just socializing and getting the war off in our minds.
One highlight of this German submarine was we had the distinction of putting down the last German attack supply submarine. They supplied the attack submarines. And we put them down. We got the whole crew. Nobody was hurt, nobody was killed, no loss of life. And put that whole 60 prisoners out of commission. I met my wife during the war. She was in the Cadet Nurse Corps. We were married about 60 years now. And that was the best thing that happened.
We went in a native village. We didn't get ashore very much. But once in a while we would get a chance to get over on what we call the beach, or on the shore. There was no bathing beach, nothing like that, obviously. But walking back into the jungle on a trail from the beach, the waterfront, came to this village. These natives, we used to call them fuzzy wuzzies because their hair stood way out, just a big ball of them. We used to refer to them as fuzzy wuzzies. And this woman came up and gave me this, and found out later that a lot of the guys that had been over and walked up and looked to see this village And they were as primitive as yesterday, I'm telling you, the way they lived. And they thought the world of the Americans because when the Japanese were there, the Japanese ran roughshod over them, give them a hard time. Where when our troops came in and took over, why we couldn't do, you know, they couldn't do enough for us. But the women used to make these necklaces.
When the war was over, the best experience I had
was Vietnam. I was advisor to the Vietnamese Special Forces, and both on 2 occasions. I went there twice, as I said, and we did things that were different. We did things in Laos, Cambodia, and in Vietnam. And probably the best thing was we made a night jump into the 4th Corps, which is way down in the Delta, and we were bringing in supplies and advice and different things to a priest who was very famous at that time. He'd come from China into Burma and then on over in there, and he was fighting the VC, the Viet Cong.
Best experience during the war? Oh, probably when I came home. I'm very fortunate that I never got wounded or hurt in any way over there.
I think probably the best experiences just had to do with making friends and comrades. You know, you tend to get very close to your comrades in tough situations.
Changed a lot of my outlook, but the outlook on life especially, because now I enjoy life much more than I used to. You know, I know how important it is. Each day is important. You know? Ever since I came back from Korea, I'm thankful.
Well, one specific instance comes to mind when we were working on a helicopter and it malfunctioned, and nobody knew how to shut the helicopter off from outside the aircraft. And I just happened to be standing there watching what was happening, and I was able to shut the aircraft off. Very scary, but saved some lives, and it saved $1 million aircraft. My most memorable experience was seeing the Berlin Wall come down and seeing Germany reunited from 10 feet away. Watched the end of the Cold War, right in the middle of it when it happened.
It was Thanksgiving Day. We had come back in out of the field, and you know, we all think, we didn't say it, but we was all thinking about home and Thanksgiving, and we figured, well, we're going to be just another typical GI meal. Well, when we got to the mess hall, the tables are filled. It brings emotion to me still. It was just a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner. They had all the trappings, as you could say, of a homeside meal. It's a meal that I won't forget.
I'd say my best experience was the fact that I traveled through at least 9 different countries. Certainly a lot of it within the United States. So I got to see the world, so to speak. I got to travel, my family got to go with me, and I think and I met great people. And to this day, I would say that some of my greatest, the things that I like greatest about being in the service were the friends that I made.
I made a promise to my God that if allowed to come home from that war, I would do my best to leave my community and my fellow man a little better than I found them. And surely I wasn't thinking of a museum that day, but that thought has continued with me, and some 60 years later, we have this museum and more than 100 volunteers who help us.
What would you say your best experience was during the war?
Serving the country and the comradeship with my fellow men.
Well, I learned an occupation. I spent, when I was discharged from the Navy, I worked in a Marine branch. I worked in the Corps of Engineers. I worked on their fleet of ships. And then I worked on various jobs in the harbor pertaining to the marine end of the operations that they had.